Well, welcome back to Gateway's Basic Cooking Techniques show. We moved into the beef section, the lighter meals, and can be heavier meals as well. And we're going to do a basic old-fashioned savory meatloaf. Now, meatloafs used to be made with a combination of beef, veal, and pork. To keep things a little more reasonable, I'm going to go with strictly beef because veal is bland and very expensive. Pork is also very bland and can be expensive. And although beef is not cheap, it's an easy to get product and it has a good taste to it. So what first thing we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to cook some of these onions and green peppers. You want to cook these, cook them till they're nicely done, translucent onion, because the amount of time they're going to sit inside that beef meatloaf mixture is not enough time for these guys to cook. If you don't cook them enough, you can have raw or semi-raw onion green pepper, which is not that much fun. It's going to change your flavor and your texture. Remember, you season each layer because each layer has to be able to stand by itself. We'll cook this. Once it's cooking, then we'll mix the ground beef. I've got about 3 pounds of ground beef. So for a binder, I tend to use 1 egg for every pound of ground beef. So we'll take the mixture. The eggs are already in the bowl. Put the ground beef in. We're going to take some chopped parsley. We're going to take some flavoring agents like A1 steak sauce. We're going to use a Montreal steak seasoning just because of great flavors for this. And we'll get this put this all together. It's going to bake in a 375 oven. It's probably going to bake for a total of about a good bit of an hour, maybe a little longer. When we get to that, we'll show you how we put it together. Alright, the onions are cooling off now. I don't want to put hot onions in amidst the eggs, the meat. Let it cool off just enough so it doesn't cook when it puts in there. I've got my seasoning in there. I've got my A1 steak sauce in there. I've chopped up some parsley, put in there. And now I'm going to put the onions in and mix it up. And remember, just like when you do the meatballs, you always want to do a test sample to make your seasonings the way you want it. You can't change it once it's already baked. You want to make sure it's right before you bake it. Okay, onion and peppers go in. So you got the Montreal steak seasoning in here. You got your onions and peppers in. You got your A1 steak sauce in. All the components you're looking for, mix it up. Mix it up well. These onions are a little warm. There's enough meat in here that's going to cool it down. But right out of the skillet, I don't want to push my luck. And I don't want to cook my eggs before I get them in the mixture here. When you think you got it right, take out your piece and do a test sample. If you have to do 3 or 4 test samples, that's fine. You have plenty of meat here. Just make sure your flavor's right before you put it in the pan to bake it. Afterwards, it's too late. So and it's an easy thing to forget. Piece that big, in the skillet. Doesn't take long, it's very small, it's very thin. We see how this sets up. All right, I'm using an 80-20 ground beef here. Remember, we said 93.7 is a very, very lean meat. It's not going to give you much of the juice you're looking for. The 93 is the meat part, the 7 is the fat part. So the 80 is 80% meat, 20% fat. You get some shrinkage on this, but you're also going to have a really soft, moist, tender product in the end. Just the sort of thing you're looking for. Okay, we'll take this, turn it over. It's all beef. This time, you don't need to cook it well unless that's the way you want it. No one eats medium rare meatloaf. It's going to be reasonably well done. You don't want most of the color out of this product. So this is one. Cook it to where you like it. Remember, all we're doing here is checking for seasoning. Here's your salt, pepper, everything else mixture right. Can you detect the A1s in there? Can you detect the onions and peppers in there? If you can, then you're right where you want to be. If not, you need to pick up your seasoning. Remember, salt is a flavor enhancer, first and foremost. That's pretty close. Got a little more A1 sauce in there. And just a pinch more salt. Other than that, pretty good stab. And the salt we're going to get from our Montreal. Mix it up well. You don't want all the salt in one place. Mix it up well. When you're going to fill a pan, do yourself a favor. Fill the ends first. The ends first, and not like to have any big gaps in it. Tuck them in the ends here. Fill your corners up. Fill your edges up. You gotta remember, you're gonna have some shrinkage here. Some of the shrinkage is gonna do because of loss of moisture. Some of the shrinkage is gonna be due because you're gonna have somebody have a 20% shrink factor just given the fact that you've got that much fat in the product. All right, we get enough. It's nice, it'll be bountiful. Smooth it out a little bit so you get a nice look to it. No big gaps, no big ridges, and you're ready to go. Ready to put this right about now into my 375 oven, and we'll let you see what it looks like when it comes out. We're going to cook it for about an hour covered, then we'll take the foil off and cook it the last little bit uncovered. So now while the meatloaf is cooking, we're making the mushroom gravy. I've got some tiny minced onions. I put it in a skillet with some hot oil. Got the hot oil built up. I'm adding flour to it. When you have flour and fat together, you're making a thickening agent called a roux. Notice the density of this thickening agent. It's like mashed potatoes. And you want to cook this, and we're going to cook this until they actually get a brownish color on it. You see I sauteed some mushrooms over here. They're already cooked off. Once we get this the color we want, we're making a brown sauce, so we have to have a brown roux. So once you get the roux the right color, I'll show it to you again. You remember how white the roux was when we started? Well, here's the color of the roux now. And the bits of onion we put in there have continued to darken up. So we're going to take now, we're going to add the beef stock to it a little bit at a time. It's so hot, it'll want to flare up. So the more you cook flour, the less ability it has to thicken. Much like a deep brown color to this sauce, it's going to be a little lighter than I'd like it to be, but it'll still have a great flavor. Let that keep on cooking the rest of the way, and then we'll add the seasoning to it. So here is our finished product of the meatloaf with the mushroom sauce, all ready to go. Hope you enjoy it. It's good.